From seed to shipment, from small business to big sale, this is Trade Routes. We're your hosts, Addie and Tiffany. Every month, we talk about how a product produced in the Western U.S. makes its way to global markets. We also dive deeper into specific aspects of international trade. Got your party hat on? For today's episode, we're celebrating America's 250th birthday by hosting a conversation about barbecue. We'll be joined by Dave Mundis, owner of ThunderSnout BBQ. Get those flags waving and plates ready as we explore what it's like to export an American institution. All right, well, we are back with our July theme of barbecue. I'm super excited about this one. I think it's perfect for the time of year. 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays, and obviously that's a big time for barbecue. The weather's warm, you're spending time outside. I love that 4th of July, it's like really such a celebration. Plus, I love patriotic country music. Also a big fireworks show, and for sure, as a native Texan, love me some barbecue. Tiffany, what are some of the staples at your family barbecue?
So I am really lucky to have grown up with a dad who loved to barbecue, and now I'm married to someone who loves to barbecue too, so I get lots of barbecue without having to lift a finger. Growing up, tri-tip for sure was the primary staple.
Oh, okay.
Big tri-tip fan over here. More recently though, my husband's been really into Texas barbecue, so he loves barbecuing a brisket. Gets really into the staying up all night with it process, and takes a lot of inspiration from what you guys do in Texas. So that's been a fun venture for us, and for me especially, because I don't have to do any work and get really good barbecue out of it. What about you? What are your staple barbecue items?
I mean, I love brisket, especially like in Texas. Maybe you have it too, but like burnt ends, where it's like the really kind of crunchy like bark part of the brisket. Man, that's so good. There was one time when my boyfriend, we were sharing some brisket, and he ate all of the burnt ends, and he was like, "I thought you didn't want them," and I was like,
"Oh no."
I think you need to go buy some more. We still talk about that. Yeah. But I also love hot dogs. Like as a kid, I ate hot dogs like multiple times a week. So I still love a hot dog at a barbecue.
Yeah, well, hot dogs are a classic barbecue item here in the U.S. According to the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, over 150 million hot dogs are eaten on Independence Day. So obviously a big hit in many households across our country. Yeah. And pretty different from the first 4th of July barbecue, which you might not be able to call a true barbecue here in the U.S. Our first barbecue was John and Abigail Adams, marking the first celebration of America's birthday with turtle soup.
Okay.
A little different.
Didn't know that was so popular.
Back in the day, yeah.
You really can barbecue anything, though. We'll talk about that later with Dave. I know he told us a little bit about some of the interesting things that he's seen barbecued. But barbecue is an American tradition. It kind of originated in the southern states, but we have a lot of amazing companies in the Wusata region, like ThunderSnout, that we'll talk to, that are really putting regional spins on these classic dishes. So I'm really excited to talk to Dave about it.
Yeah, me too. Let's go see what they've got cooking.
Okay.
All right. Dave, welcome to the Trade Routes podcast. We're really excited to have you on and to talk all things barbecue today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, we're going to get started with the origin story of ThunderSnout. We're really excited to hear about how ThunderSnout came to be. So if you could give us a little bit of history on the company, that would be great.
Sure. It's been a passion of mine to cook, and I moved from Colorado out to New Hampshire in the early 2000s, and a means of sort of doing things for myself and connecting with other people that enjoy the same things, I got into doing some competitions in the Northeast. And as we got into that, we started, that really generated the experience with barbecue competitions as a whole and making sauces, rubs, things to go with the food that we were preparing. And after a couple of years of that, we came across some guys who had a team that they were annually going to Memphis in May. And the structure of this team is such that they were looking for outside people to come in and expand the team and take ownership of particular facets of the submissions. So we said, this sounds amazing, love to go, and showed up and really didn't know what we were getting into. And they said, Dave, you're the sauce guy. okay, no problem. I'll be the sauce guy. What's our category? So we were doing vinegar-based sauce that year. I said, okay, vinegar-based sauce it is. And so I really didn't have a ton of exposure to vinegar-based sauce, but I started cooking in the kitchen a whole lot and did pretty well with it. So we entered and we came in the top 10 first time I tried out, and everyone was super excited. So we went back next year and they said, hey, now you get to do mustard sauce because we did so well last year. And again, we came in top 10. So I was like, yes, we're nailing it. And again, not like I knew anything about mustard sauce when, they asked me to do that, but figured it out. The third year we went, we did both and both placed top 10. And then the fourth year, which was, I think, 2014, I'd gotten to the point where I thought, I love doing this. I think we're pretty good at it. We're always in the top 10. And, the first place was just always kind of elusive. And so that was every year they have an award ceremony at the end. And I stayed back and I was cooking for everybody for the whole team. And that was the year we won first place. So in winning first place, we thought, well, we should do something with this. If our sauce is so good that we consistently place in the top 10 and finally win, then why not try and take a passion and do something a little bit more with it? Take it to the next level and commercialize it, which, by the way, was a challenge I had no understanding of whatsoever at the time. I just loved cooking and making sauce. But building a company really was an eye-opening experience, and I've learned a ton about it, and I've really come to enjoy it and appreciate it along the way.
Very cool. So got your root in those competitions and then branched out from there. Very, very cool. Can you tell us a little bit about where the name ThunderSnout came from?
I'm going to give my lifetime college friend, roommate credit for that. We wanted to come up with something that was super catchy. Dave's barbecue sauce, it doesn't grab you and you certainly don't remember it, but everybody I talk to says ThunderSnout. Who could forget that name?
Yeah, it definitely stands out.
We wanted to come up with something that was oriented to barbecue, hence the pig reference, but something that was also catchy.
Well, you talked a little bit about the vinegar and mustard sauces. That reminds me of my time in university in the Carolinas. Very prevalent over there, which for a Texan, it was unusual to me encountering those types of sauces. I was like, what are these? What am I supposed to do with this? Like all of this vinegar.
Right.
But it's great in its own right.
I had for work ended up in East Carolina where their vinegar sauce is vinegar. With a tiny bit of flakes of something else in it.
Yeah.
And true South Carolina mustard sauce was also something that was eye-opening for me. And I took, I'll say, my flavor orientation more Kansas City and Memphis and combined it so that the sauces that I make are Carolina inspired, I like to call them. They have a lot of vinegar, but you don't notice the vinegar as much as you would, out there specifically the way they make them.
Okay, so you've been talking about these different regions of the U.S. where these sauces and barbecue profiles come from, none of which are the Western United States, which we talk about. Barbecue is something that is kind of typically associated with the American South, and you've taken some inspiration from there. But what do you think it is that the Wusata region is bringing to the table in something that's been such a long-standing American tradition?
What I like about the West is we are more willing to color outside the lines, right? There's, when you go to the South, they've got some very rigid concepts of this is what my sauce is supposed to taste like, and this is how the meat is supposed to be cooked. We are a little more imaginative and creative here, and I also think that we have a bolder palate. I get to experiment with flavors that use more pepper or different amounts of seasonings that I think would be, I don't want to say overwhelming, but perhaps deviating from the expected norm if you're in Memphis. When you're in Memphis, here's what my sauce tastes like. Out here, my classic sauce is an example where even though I really made it and won the award for Memphis in May, it has grown and evolved because out here I get to add different kinds of pepper and different amounts of other flavors and seasonings that might not necessarily be looked upon as favorably in Memphis, so to speak. Same with the mustard sauce, right? So a super traditional Carolina mustard sauce would probably taste a little bit different than mine, although everybody loves mine. Even the people who say, I don't like mustard sauce, they say, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever tried. So that's why I enjoy the Colorado culture and really focusing our sales and our company orientation here, because this gives us an opportunity for increased creativity.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I totally agree that that's an added value that the West can provide. And I think that's something that would give the Western region, when they're trying to create these new flavors, trying to kind of reinvent or add their own touch to something that's been around for so long. I think that's what gives them like an exciting piece on the exporting side of things, that maybe, somebody's seen 100 different barbecue sauces or barbecue rubs before, but then there's somebody that comes in that's not quite the same, and they might think, our market would like this. So
we make a strawberry ghost pepper sauce that I would tell you I describe it as a cult classic favorite, because most people say, I don't even know how that works together. And then everyone who tries it says it's just spicy enough to fall into the, ghost pepper category, but also sweet enough for everyone to enjoy it commercially without having to say, I don't do hot sauce kind of, And that's just not a traditional standard flavor that anybody would get. And our export for it, they love it. They absolutely love it, go crazy for it.
Are there specific markets where that sauce does well in?
As far as our exporting goes, we are focused on the United Kingdom, and we have done exceedingly well there with that sauce. They also really love the mustard sauce because they've got something called piccalilli over there, but their palates, I think, appreciate bigger, bolder flavors that are way outside their comfort zone for what they find in their stores there. Colorado, I have a lot of people who love what we make, but I also have plenty of competition for people who are also bringing similarly bolder sauces and flavors, to market here locally. But we do have a following, people who always come around and say, oh, I was looking for that on the store shelf, and we make sure that it gets put back there. But for sure, I think the UK is an opportunity for us that I had never expected would really be as receptive as they are. And it's just an absolute joy to go out there and go to events and have people tell me how much they love these flavors.
Yeah, as somebody who currently lives in the UK at the moment, I can attest that they're really open to any sort of culinary adventure you can throw at them. I think because it's such a multicultural place.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. So we'll get back to exports in a little bit, but I want to jump back to your competition roots.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about producing a product that's for a culinary competition versus producing a product for the commercial market? Are there different approaches that you take when you're looking at those two sides of the spectrum?
Competitions are insane.
Tell us more.
It is chaos. So for the competitions, you have very specific times where you have to turn in your product, and you have to coordinate the temperature and the preparedness. Like, all of that has to come together 100% in the last 2 minutes, before your turn in, so that it is exactly the way you want it to be. So you can't overcook, you can't undercook. When you're talking about meat, oh my God, it's just nuts. The competitions here that I generally attend are Kansas City. Even though I talked all about Memphis in May as the roots for ThunderSnout, the ones that I did more frequently were Kansas City Barbecue Society, where you have to do chicken and ribs and pork shoulder and brisket. And so cooking all that at the same time is crazy. And then your sauce has to be not too hot, not too cold. You don't want it to be too runny. It can't be too thick because it had been cooking for too long. And in Memphis, you have, I'll say it's even crazier because you have people coming to your site to inspect everything and hear your story and then taste your food. And so there's so much going on. But when you're doing it commercially, I get to run 100 different tests to make sure that it is exactly perfect, exactly the way I want. And you go, to the manufacturing facility, and even if things are slightly off, you get a chance to tweak it. And there's so many ways of ensuring the quality coming from the commercial production perspective, where you're winging a ton of stuff in the competitions and you are just praying. And sometimes you're like, oh, I blew it. And then you win top 10. Just who knows?
Yep. How fun. It sounds like that competition environment could be really exciting, but pretty stressful too. Really high stakes.
It is. And I'll mention, for the sake of people watching this, what I particularly love about barbecue and the competition and the industry in general, people are willing to help each other out, even in a competition. And even in production, right? There are different companies that are willing to provide support, or, hey, I wanted to talk to you about, I had a problem with this ingredient, or I had a problem with this packaging. And instead of saying, well, you're my competition, I don't have anything to say to you, everyone is open and sharing and supportive. And I think that's an amazing thing about this aspect of this business.
That's so cool. I love seeing that sense of community come forward. On that note, is there anything that you think other companies who are looking to use the competition scene as a means of promotion, do you think if there's anything they should know going into it?
There's a lot of things. So I think one is managing expectations, right? So you can't just think, hey, because I'm competing, I'm going to be found. And even just because I won, I'm going to be successful. I can tell you that we've been in this business now for 10 years, I think we've had it going, and it's still a challenge. And I think that you need to be committed to supporting your brand. So once you get out there, whether you win or not, you still have to continue to advocate for yourself, because it's really hard, especially in the U.S. and in the market here in Colorado. And I think, the Western states in general, you walk into a supermarket, there are so many condiments for us, for consumers to pick from. Mm-hmm. And so you have to continuously try and draw attention to yourself. Going to the competitions is a great way to do it, and then you have to keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah, it's not a one-step process. It sounds
no,
like.
Absolutely not.
Just like barbecue.
Exactly.
Okay, so in the world of barbecue, rubs and sauces, they come in at different moments in the cooking process.
Yes.
I know you'll also have rubs that you produce with ThunderSnout. Do you develop them with the sauce in mind? Do they have to work together, or do they kind of live in their own independent worlds?
Yes. Yes to all. I think the rub has to be able to stand alone, as does the sauce. And ours are intended to be that way. But I particularly enjoy finding combinations that work. Not every meat or fish or vegetable needs both. And the sauces that I have actually are intended to be used as marinade, as a dipping sauce, as a baste. You can put it on while you're cooking. And, I've come across people who say, well, what do I do with this? And of course, as the producer of these products, I'm thinking, really? You're asking me this? But so then we put together something that says, oh, hey, guess what? The mustard sauce is amazing on salmon or asparagus and broccoli. Who thought about that? Or strawberry ghost sauce goes great with tater tots and hash browns. Really? And, because everyone is thinking, oh, well, you just need to put it on, pork or ribs or something like that. And that's not true. The steak and brisket rub. I love my steak and brisket rub, mostly because I think it is a departure from what other people are generally used to. But we throw it in hamburger meat. And instead of just sprinkling it on top where people think, well, the rub always goes on the outside, put it on the inside. Or when you're making chicken, we have a Jamaican jerk rub, which I think brings a lot of that sort of islandy, flair. And, put it on the inside of the skin, inside of the chicken, cook the whole chicken on the rotisserie or beer can. Things that are sort of outside of the perception that people have. But then you can also, while you're cooking, brisket's a great example, totally rub the whole thing in the brisket rub. And then at the end, I'll put the classic sauce on top of it and then, let it cook for the last half hour hour, whatever it is, outside of the wrap, and let the sauce really set in on top of the rub. So I think it's a personal preference, but I do think that they should be designed in a way that they can be complementary. To say, oh, never put this sauce on a rub, I'd be like, are you sure?
Why limit yourself?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really taking the time to kind of iterate different recipes so that, people don't have to just limit their use of your products to barbecue as a category. Like, yes, it's a barbecue-driven product, but it sounds like you've given people a lot of space to be creative with it.
I think that's what cooking's all about. And there are people who say it's a barbecue sauce, which means I can only use it when I'm on my grill outside from April to October. And now it gets cold and I don't go out and use my grill, so I guess I shouldn't be worrying about it. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. We put the strawberry ghost pepper, we drizzle it on cornbread and bake it. It has absolutely nothing to do with grilling whatsoever, right? But here's an opportunity to use a sauce in a way that you never thought about before.
Yeah, you mentioned that seasonality of your products. Does that seasonal demand play a big role in when you're producing products? And how do you kind of factor that in and manage for seasonal demand?
So for certain, I can promise you the late spring, summer, early fall, that's the big hitting times. The stores are absolutely saying, we need more sauce, we need more product. I've got some restaurants. A really good friend of mine has a very successful restaurant here in Colorado, and they go through tons of sauce, but they go through a lot more in the nicer weather. And I like to have fresh product available for everybody. But at the same time, I mentioned earlier about the vinegar, so we don't have any preservatives at all. But the vinegar itself is a natural preservative, and through the combination of manufacturing process and the flavors we put in there, it gives our bottles a 2-year shelf life without needing to add anything. So if I manufacture something in late fall and it sits on the store shelf for 3 months, it's not a crisis. Right? I don't want it to sit on the shelf for 3 months, and I want my customers to have fresh bottles, but at the same time, if it lingers a little bit, it's okay, and then we do another run in preparation for the springtime.
Very cool. Going back to ingredient sourcing, I'm curious to hear about this. How do you source your ingredients, especially things like the spices that go into your rub products?
So ingredient sourcing is interesting because, generally speaking, the manufacturing facility acquires the ingredients, and most of the co-packers, they don't just have one customer like me. They've got tons of customers, so they have a lot of the ingredients. I specifically request, as part of Busada, to make sure that our ingredients are sourced from the U.S. The exception is the ghost pepper powder. Generally speaking, comes from overseas. There are different peppers that I'm exploring that are grown here and that we could use here so that everything would be 100%, but almost everything comes from the U.S. All the things that go into our sauces are easily sourced from the U.S., so it's not difficult for us to find. I prefer to have quality products. I don't want to get the absolute cheapest. We pride ourselves on being a gourmet product that uses high quality ingredients. But for the most part, I tell the manufacturer, here's what I want, and then they go and acquire it for us.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about the manufacturing co-packing process? I don't think that's something that we've talked to someone about yet. How did you build a relationship with a co-packer, and for your recipes, is that something that you iterate yourself and then just give to them? Tell us how that process works.
So co-packing is interesting because, like anything else, there are different scales for the co-packers, right? So some focus on small batches with smaller companies. Others are mass production facilities where they pump out hundreds of thousands of gallons of product each month. And the process definitely varies by the size. So the smaller co-packer has an easier time adapting to changes in recipes, where the bigger facilities say, look, I've pre-ordered a ton of ingredients for you based upon this recipe. I can't just go and change on a dime. For me, it's easier using smaller companies. And as to the iterations, cooking in your kitchen and coming up with a recipe that you love and translating that to a commercial product is a much more complicated process than you would think. So I'll make a brand new sauce that I want to experiment with, and I'll make a gallon of it here in my kitchen and taste it and tweak it and say I love it. Now I want to go and make 1,000 gallons of this sauce to bottle and sell. Well, you don't multiply every ingredient times 1,000. That doesn't translate because there is chemistry involved, and you realize, well, this one I only have to increase a little bit, but this one I had to increase a ton because it didn't work right. And so you find that even when you go to the manufacturer, you need to run some tests there and fine-tune your recipe that worked great at home, but now commercially has to, be adapted to, the larger scale and the greater quantities.
So with that co-packer, if you're sending your product to stores or to overseas, is that something that they're handling, or do you bring on
and that depends upon the co-packer and what they are willing to do. So some will actually handle the shipping and the distribution, and others say, I made it for you. It's all sitting on a pallet, wrapped up, and it's on the dock, and you have to come and me being me, whoever, right? Whatever. To your point, the next party has to come and pick that pallet up and then distribute it out to the stores. And so it varies. It varies by manufacturer and what they're willing to do, and I think also to some degree how far you want them to go. So if it's hey, do me a favor and put it on a pallet, and this truck's going to show up and help me out and get it onto that so we can get it to the stores, versus, well, I want you to own getting it out to the port in New Jersey so I can send it over to the UK. And usually they're not that willing to go,
that
where
far.
you're. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I made it for you.
Yeah.
Okay, now you own it, Dave. Good luck.
So getting a little deeper into exporting, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started with exports and what your experience has been like with exporting so far?
So I will thank Wusada for introducing me to people in the UK, and I'm going to say this was probably 2021. It was 21 or 22, and there was a mission that came in from Europe, and I attended. It was in downtown Denver, and I went and met some people. One of them happened to be a co-packer here, by the way, and the other was a company out in the UK that were looking for American products. And those two connections were what allowed me to pursue, let's make some sauce and send it out there. And hey, are you interested in these? And so I had to make sure that they liked what we were making. And, we went out quite a bit actually and did some events and attended different things that we shared our product out with people and said, hey, what works and what doesn't. And we also did some market analysis and went to some of the different stores to understand it. And it turns out that they loved our products, and the stores really weren't carrying anything like that. And in the UK, much of the product that you see on the shelf are 3.75 milliliters. They're smaller bottles than what we're used to. And so I was talking about, should I make them smaller? And they said no. People think America, they think big.
Everything's bigger here.
Your big bottles will stand out on the shelves. Everyone will know that they are U.S. products. Stick with that theme and go with it. And so it worked out really quite well. It is challenging to sell a product overseas, and you have to have good partners because you can't be there all the time, and there are always logistical problems. There's always things that go wrong. Hopefully more things go right than go wrong. But for us, it's actually worked out quite nicely, and we continue to export over there. We are actively trying to expand. We want to go north and get out of just the southern part of the UK, but we are trying to look at working with some marketing groups out there and some additional distributors. Over there, I have to have distributors as well that get it to the farm shops and get it into the stores and things like that.
Very cool that you're looking for those opportunities to expand in that market. It sounds like you mentioned that American identity and that larger bottle size has a role in helping your products sell well there. Do you see other aspects of that American identity really playing a key role in selling well?
Yes, and I think it's a little bit of everybody has envy of products that come from somewhere else, whether it's English beer or German beer or French wine or. Yeah. I mean, we have all the products here in the U.S., but there's some cachet about it's European or it's South American. And the same, I think, is true over there, that they've got products and they look at it and they say, oh, that's American. If anyone knows barbecue, it's American. So I'm going to trust this product, or at least give it a shot.
So you've talked a lot about the UK, and I love that the market here is really doing well for you. Are there other regions that you see that have that same interest in American style barbecue where, maybe it might not be the right fit for you, but maybe another barbecue company would be like, I think I would fit really well in X exploding market?
So all of the EU is right now just really interested in barbecue products. I was over in Paris last year and they had like a huge barbecue event that I missed by just a couple days.
I think I did.
And we've been talking to a company that's in Spain, in Madrid, and they're really interested in it. There are, of course, now differences between selling in the UK and selling in the EU, so we've been focused on the UK first. I did I think it was a USADA sponsored event for Latin and South America, and that was really interesting. The challenge, I think, is making sure that you find, and there were some contacts that we made, but finding the right contacts to sell your product at the price point that you're targeting. So for me, I'm trying to be a really upscale, high-end gourmet product, and there were some challenges about the price points for a product like this in that market. And so to other people, I would encourage them to go explore and find out. I haven't even dabbled in the Asian market yet, but I'm willing to bet that they would love American barbecue products just as much. And it's probably about making that contact and finding somebody who's the good partner on the other side to help promote your brand.
Very cool. So for those other small batch companies here in the U.S. who maybe haven't exported yet but are looking to dip their toes in international waters, what do you think the best way to get started with exporting for them is?
I would attend a USADA event.
Oh, great
Good
answer.
advice.
I mean that sincerely because it's how I got started doing this. And I found that USADA has a lot of tools that you make available to people for attending. You bring missions here, so there are things that don't require overseas travel, but there are also opportunities to do the overseas travel. I personally think it's important to understand your target market to some degree. You can always hire a partner over there to say, go investigate, is my barbecue sauce going to be good? Here's a couple bottles and do some trials. But to personally go there and attend some of these events And WUSADA has programs that allow you to submit for the expenses and to attend them, and WUSADA organizes them so that you bring the highest probability of a connection, to the event rather than the person on their own having to go find who do I want to go talk to. So I know that, WUSADA means a lot to you guys, but I also happen to really benefit from it, and I think others would too.
Amazing.
That is really, really good to hear. We, of course, are thrilled to hear that the WUSADA resources we have been so useful for you, and hopefully are to other companies as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, and for those that are listening that maybe aren't from the WUSADA region, you don't have to be sad. This doesn't mean that you don't have these opportunities. The great thing is we have sister organizations that do this for the Southern U.S. and for the Midwest and the Northeast as well. So you're not out of luck.
Yeah. So, Dave, any last piece of advice or any final words that you'd like other companies here in the U.S. to know about getting started with something like a barbecue product or getting started in exporting? Anything we haven't covered yet?
It's more difficult than you think it's going to be. You have to be tenacious and, press through the roadblocks and the barriers. There's no insurmountable problem, and my sort of philosophy in life about almost everything is there's no such thing as can't. You can if you want to do it, and, go for it.
Amazing.
Very good.
Barbecue, barbican.
That's right.
All right, one last fun question kind of
Yes.
to close this out. What is the most unique thing you have seen someone barbecue?
So some events have what they call an open category, which is show up with whatever you want and submit it. Maybe the judges love it, maybe the judges hate it. I think the craziest one that we did was rattlesnake. We competed against a group that submitted alligator.
Okay.
So they were really thinking way outside the box on this one. The rattlesnake was a particular challenge because, not having ever cooked rattlesnake before, there's a million bones.
Oh, okay. I guess so.
How to flay it and take them out and serve it, because no judge is going to be appreciative of chomping on a whole ton of bones.
No.
But yeah, there's some crazy people who just say, why not?
Like, where does one procure a rattlesnake?
Out in the Western U.S., they're all over the place.
That's true.
All right, I think that's a pretty good answer. And with that, we'll wrap it up. But thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure to meet you both. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Perfect way to celebrate 250th anniversary of our country. Classic
That's
American
right.
barbecue. Woo.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on this journey from farm to far away. We'll see you next time for more stories about small businesses and big opportunities. I'm Tiffany, and this is Addie, and you've been listening to Trade Routes, a podcast by the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association. Like what you've heard? Consider subscribing, leaving us a review to help others discover these stories, or reaching out at marketing@wusada.com. To learn more or explore export opportunities for your own business, visit us at wusada.org. That's